Hey, everybody. We are here for a live stream. First look at the new Apple TV 4K. This is the third gen. It just released a couple days ago, and we wanted to kind of get together and discuss our initial thoughts. Guys, you ordered yours directly from Apple. Did it arrive on the 4th?
Yeah, it sure did. Date of release delivery through Apple, totally worthwhile. I was gonna get it on Amazon myself, but it said it was gonna come on the 8th, and I was like, I can't wait 4 more days to get this product. I want it on the 4th, especially since that was my birthday. So it did arrive,
All right.
and it got here for my birthday. So
See, that
it was
was the
good.
thing. I did the test and ordered it through pre-ordered it through Amazon,
So
and
you still haven't gotten it, right?
yeah, but that was the thing. It was when we ordered it, it said releasing on the 4th, and then once I placed the order, it said estimated delivery the 8th. Like, but then it did show up on the 5th, so
Oh,
I was pleasantly surprised.
so
Yeah.
I just would have had to wait 1 more day instead of 4 more days.
Exactly. But then your wife wouldn't have been able to box it up and wrap it for your birthday, or she would have saved it for your birthday next year. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So, right off the bat, let's just get right into fit and finish. Uh, we all know that Apple packaging is considered to be the best. I don't think anybody saw anything that would disagree with
No,
that.
no,
Um,
no,
Yeah.
no
Yep.
dispute there.
yeah. What about
It,
the device itself? Did it meet your expectations? Exceed them? What are your initial thoughts?
yeah, so I'll go ahead and get started. Obviously, like you said, a pleasure to open. Uh, very nice there. The product, once I had it, I was actually impressed with a couple of things that really kind of stood out to me. I liked the feel of the slightly rubberized bottom that gave it a nice grip
Mm-hmm.
on a surface. That was really a nice feature. It was really svelte. I'm comparing this like to the Fire TV Cube that is significantly larger. Um, and the other thing about this that kind of stood out was the fact that for me, the power cord was a standard power cord. Um, the AC adapter is built into the box compared to the Fire TV Cube. It's not built into the box. You've got like a big wall wart
Mm-hmm.
that you've got to deal with, and that's kind of obnoxious. Um, the I think it's worth pointing out that the Fire TV Cube has the pretty decent speaker so that it can be and microphones to be an Amazon Echo device. So there is a difference in that functionality, which somewhat justifies the size difference and that wall wart thing. But still, I was pretty impressed by the way this looked and felt. And the remote was really nice. Good feel, good look. Um, Functionality, we'll talk about that, but the way it looked and felt was very top notch.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll echo that too. The remote, especially for me, was really good. I like it that it has the USB-C port in the back to charge it, right? That's really handy. Um, and two, speaking now, it's not anybody that watches our show knows that I'm in the Apple ecosystem. And if you are in the Apple ecosystem, setup on this thing is a breeze, right? You just set it up from your iPhone. For me, it was all of about 10 seconds, right?
Mhm.
So, and then I was done. All my apps were there, downloaded and all. And I was really, I, I don't know if I've ever had a Apple device set up that quickly before. So I was really impressed with it.
So,
Okay.
as always, I'm probably going to be the odd man out because, um, while I did appreciate that the transformer is internal to the device, as it should be, I hate wall warts. I The size of the device is fine. It's slightly taller than a Roku Ultra. It's about the same size and footprint. Probably about twice the thickness. That's fine. But the piano black on the side, right out of the box, it was covered in fingerprints, and I can't stand that. I absolutely can't stand that. Give me a matte finish like the top, because otherwise you can't touch it. I will have to clean it.
Did you peel the sticker
Yes.
off from around
that? And that's when I peeled the sticker off, that's what made me notice that now there's fingerprints all over the thing. And the other thing is this remote. I absolutely hate it. It's too thin. I don't like the sharp corners. I do like the fact that it's no longer glass. So Jimmy, you shouldn't be able to break this one.
Right.
But I don't like these sharp corners. And then we anybody that knows the VOD Squad knows that I am not a fan. I'm not a fan of remotes where you have to do the fast forward and rewind with direction keys. I want a dedicated button, because the apps, some apps use fast forward and frame seek. Usually you hit the arrows to do your frame by frame seek, and then you hit the fast forward button to actually fast forward, and you can't toggle between the two of those if you don't have the two different buttons. It's a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, you can do it by rotating your thumb around the ring, right? That's how it works.
See, and I never would have figured that out. And that's part of the that's part of
and so I think that's kind of what I was hinting at when I said when we start talking about functionality there. For me, so I'm kind of like halfway between the two of you, right? I have an Apple ID. I own a MacBook Pro for software development, and so I've had that for a long time. I've got things like the Magic Pad and stuff. So I've got a small amount of ecosystem going on here. I don't have an iPhone, so I still had the unpleasant onboarding experience, because even though I had my MacBook in front of me, it only lets you do that with the iPhone. So I couldn't do anything other than punch in the numbers. And it took me about 10 minutes to realize, and not 10 straight minutes, but 10 minutes of using the device to understand why the cursor kept jumping all over the place. Because at first I was using it like I would these, right? Just push. You can slide back and forth between them. But I didn't realize that was a touchpad. I thought it was just an OK button in the middle, like on the Fire TV remotes.
Yep.
And so I was regularly kind of like flipping from side to side by sliding my thumb. And then finally, at one point, I realized exactly when those two things happened.
Yeah.
It made sense to me. And then I was like, oh crap, that's all, the whole thing's kind of a touchpad. So I was super annoyed at the whole device up until then, because like I screwed up putting in a couple of passwords. Then I figured out the text to voice thing that worked really smoothly. So I was actually able to put in a couple of passwords that way. And then I, starting to get a feel for how the thing actually works, learned that. And then I realized that like if I'm forwarding and rewinding video, I can slide across it. That was really a game changer to me.
Yeah. While we're talking about it, I'm just going to go through this setup real quick.
Yep.
Yeah. So right here, if you do have an iPhone, it takes less than a minute to set it up. Yeah. See, if you do have an iPhone.
This is the point that I was dreading, because I don't currently have an Apple ID. And I wasn't sure if I was even going to be able to get into the device. But if you go to set up manually, obviously don't use Siri here. And I can't see the Apple has a thing on there that I can't turn off. That Apple TV screen reader. If that
It
wasn't
says
there,
triple click
yeah,
the menu button.
which is the menu button.
It's the one that says home, right?
That doesn't say anything.
No, it's the one with the computer screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, and I'm doing that and it's not doing anything. Click, click, click.
Interesting.
Yeah. See, and this is a thing that has been a problem since I turned this thing on. I luckily, at some point, I figured out that this is skip down here. So I was able to, I think, yep. So I was able to skip that, but I can't get that thing to go away. And so we go through here. I'm going to turn off because I don't want any of this. This was one thing that drove me crazy because I'm trying to all right. Yeah, we'll just go center US.
It's a shame you turned off Siri. You could have just spoke it in there.
No. I don't want to.
Okay.
And don't send.
You can do it the hard way.
So then we're
in. So the second time I had to put in a password or something, I realized that I could talk to it by pushing the button on the side. That made the rest of that setup process really easy. So, and like I said, like when I finally got things figured out and got into YouTube, I realized that like sliding my thumb back and forth would do the rewind and forward. And it was actually a lot easier than like clicking to go every 15 seconds. There are some differences between the apps on every other device. And I say every other, I mean Android, Fire TV, and Roku that I've used that actually work more smoothly and look better on the Apple TV than it does on the other devices. So I'm actually pretty happy with that kind of functionality. The way things look, I have not completely figured out the user interface though. I don't quite understand where apps are versus Apple TV shows versus things like that. So it took me a while to figure out how to get to YouTube, because just searching where I was initially, it brought up a bunch of shows that were YouTube like, but it wasn't YouTube shows. I was confused. So it definitely takes a little bit of getting used to compared to other devices, but what I have been able to use has actually been really nice. Probably a step above what I would say the experience is on other devices.
Well, what about you, Jimmy, while we're talking about the UI?
Yeah, so I mean, the UI has been it's the same as my first gen Apple 4K TV, right? I mean, because it can still run the latest OS, even though that's about a 6-year-old device now. But so the UI is good. It was a little bit of a difference between the two remotes, right? Because I mean, this is the one that we're talking about now, and then this is the remote, the first gen Apple TV that I have. So there's a little bit of difference here. Here you can see here below the menu button there. See if I can point it out here. Here is the Siri button, right? If you want to speak into it, to where on this remote, right, the Siri button's been moved to the side, right? So there are some nuances like that you have to kind of get used to, right? Coming from the older generation to the newer generation, right? But you know, it's easy enough, right? I mean, I found it to be no challenge, right, to figure that out, right? And the click wheel type remote here, right? To me, it's much like what the iPods that I used to use works. It works pretty similar to it. Got the center button that you can mash. You can scroll around. You can scrub through video with it. It's pretty easy to navigate that way. And then you got your back button, your home button, your play pause button, the volume up, down, mute. All that's on here, right? That was one thing that you didn't have a mute button on the old remote, right? So that's one improvement, right? You could still do it, but you had to do it in the menu of the UI.
Yeah,
right?
no, that
to where
is
here,
not even acceptable.
Well, 6 years ago and now.
Yeah,
right?
my
So,
Roku has had
but,
my Roku has had a mute button the entire time. 6 years
I-
ago is not an excuse.
I agree, but Apple handled that with software, right, as opposed to having it on a button, right?
Yeah.
But now it's on a button, and I do like that better, right? So and not to mention too, I don't know if you could tell it. I don't know how good this will show up on video, but you can see right there where I dropped this one. So the bottom half of this remote on the front side, I mean, the back is aluminum, right? But the front part of it is on the bottom half there. I don't know if you can see that inflection of the matte
We can
finish on up above and the shiny below. So the shiny below is glass, right? So if you drop this thing like on a tile floor, like what I have, you can break the glass to where on this one you don't have to worry about that, right? Because it's all aluminum.
That's an insane decision. Whoever thought glass on a remote?
Yeah, 2 words there. Johnny Ives is who put that there. Right?
Those are
Johnny Ives did a lot of great work, but not a fan of that putting glass on that remote.
To me, the 2 words Johnny Ives equals runaway. Because if he's involved, I'm gonna hate it. That's already been established, so I just stay away.
I won't say that about all of his work.
No, I'm just saying for me. But I'm not saying for everybody.
But at least in this case, I'm with you, Clyde. Right? I don't like big glass on that.
So, getting back to the UI, here this is one thing that's driving me crazy. Why is there video auto playing on my home screen? No. It just keeps going right back. Because I keep stupid touchpad.
What app are you highlighting?
I don't even know. I just
hold
on. Let me talk. Hold on.
Okay.
So this is initial. Nothing has been done. You saw I just did the setup. So but the thing, aside from that video auto playing, I don't care what it is. I don't want any video auto playing.
You can turn that off.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Let me talk. So, but before you even get to the settings, figuring out how to do the settings, I ran into one thing that made me say, I can't use this, and I'm done with it. The fact that you cannot remove any of these applications. I don't want any of these applications. But you can't remove them.
Press and hold?
I did. And then you hit play. The only option you have is to put it into a folder. I don't want a folder. I don't want them. I want them removed from my home screen. If I can't do that, I can't use it. It's an OCD thing for me. I can't keep looking at, you can move them around, but the fact that you can't remove it is ridiculous. I know that's an iPhone thing. One thing I will recommend though to anybody, first thing you do, if you like Mike, if you don't like this touchpad like I don't, go into, I think it's remotes. Oh, there it is. Remotes and devices, click pad, change it to click only. and it makes this actually usable, in my opinion. Um, but there's like a lot of the required standard functionality is not here. Like, I can't run a network test. So, like, if you're having streaming issues on the Roku, I can go in there and I can click check my network, and it'll do a speed test and tell me if there's a problem.
You
can't
just
do that.
download the speed test app.
I'm not downloading an app specifically for a thing that I might have to do. Yeah, no. I should be able to just go in here and push a button test.
I'm
but-
not even sure if you can do that on the Fire TV.
Yeah, I don't know. You can on the Roku.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just the fact that I can't remove these things, I have to put them into a folder that I then have to look at because you can't get rid of it, makes this unusable. I can't use this thing. And which is why I still don't have a Apple ID, because I can't. I did find, to answer your question, Mike, you have to get your apps through the App Store right there. That apparently is like toothpicks or tongue depressors. But I can't add anything because I don't have an Apple ID. So the only thing I can do is get in and check out the UI. But this autoplay, you gotta go in there and find, right? I don't even know where it is. But it's in here someplace. I will give them credit because they have the reduce loud sounds as a global setting, whereas Roku introduced that like 10 years ago, but it's on a per app basis, and it's up to the application owner to implement it or not. I do like that would be an automatic on for me.
There's certainly some things that I found interesting here. I did not dig into the settings really deep like you have. And so I feel like that with a little bit of work, I might be able to make it work better for me. There are a couple of other things that I wanted to call out. The first is I was impressed, actually, even though it took me some time to get through the setup, because I don't use an iPhone. I was impressed on the setup with the fact that it didn't opt you into anything. Even it actually asked you, and you had to explicitly select yes or no, as opposed to even just defaulting you to be on the yes button, right? Like you literally had to move it to down onto yes or no. So I find that a bit of an annoyance, because if it comes out on a button, people tend to be trying to click through and assume that the default is the right one to select, and they don't do that. I thought that was it's subtle, it's a little thing, but I liked it. They give you a pretty significant amount of control over how much information you're sending to them and what you're sharing to them, and I thought that was very positive as well. A lot finer control, it seems, than what you get on the Fire TV or the Roku. Now, maybe you can go in and make those adjustments, but they were all in the setup with no defaults. And the other thing is, like, when you were in that interface, one thing I found difficult is, like, I went into the Apple TV and it took me a while to figure out how to get out of that back to that home screen, because it requires double clicking the home.
Oh,
instead,
really?
Because once you're deep into Apple TV, if you hit home, it takes you to the Apple TV home.
You can't back out with the back button.
You can.
I think you can back out or hit home twice.
Because that's
home twice will take you home to the home screen from anywhere. But on that, if you're on the home page of Apple TV, you can hit back to go to the main Apple TV
Okay.
home. It was just that I didn't understand that that home didn't always take me to the device home. That confused me a little bit, and that's why it took me a while to get YouTube on there, because I kept going back there and thinking, okay, well, now I'm home. Now where are the apps? And then I couldn't find Hulu, which I installed as part of my setup, and I couldn't find YouTube once I'd added it.
Mhm.
So I found that very, very confusing. But again, once you understand it, it makes sense, and it actually adds a little bit of ease of navigation, because now you have a way to get to the default home of the app you're in. And so little subtle things like that, I'm I'm kind of impressed.
Yeah.
Also, I will say the video from the device is, as you would expect, top notch. It went through the Dolby Vision setup for me. I feel like the visuals are at least as good. I suspect slightly better than the Fire TV. One last thing I want to mention is the screensaver that it comes with is absolutely gorgeous. Like, the images on my TV are vastly better than what I've seen on any of the other devices for the screensavers. So
Yeah.
really like that.
You
Yeah,
like looking at that a top-down view of Los Angeles that's slightly out of focus?
There were a bunch of different views.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I wasn't watching for a long
The
time.
only one that I know, I was like, that looks like Los Angeles, and then I see the Staples Center come into the screen. It was like, yeah, that's Los
Yeah.
Angeles.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Jimmy?
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, everything that Mike said, spot on, for that. And the one thing, and for the setup, yeah, I can't speak to the setup that you guys went through, because for me, it was less than a minute, right? But that's because I carry an iPhone,
Yeah.
right? So for me, it was very easy. All my apps came there automatically, all within a minute, right? So I can't speak to the setup that you guys went through, because I had the very first generation Apple TV back in 2007, right? So I've had an Apple TV for a while, right? So setup was a breeze for me. Yeah, and again, that's for somebody who's in the Apple ecosystem, right? If you're not in the Apple ecosystem, yeah, you may find it a little bit cumbersome, because there are some setup things that you'll have to do to kind of get into the ecosystem.
Yeah,
So to speak, right?
this device is the perfect example of why I don't use Apple devices, is because I can't stand their UI. The choices that they make for you. It's you do it our way, and that's the only way. I don't like that.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with
No,
it.
that's
It-
fine.
it's
I
al-
mean,
it's
it's fine.
always-
It's fine for some people. It just I can't. I
and
can't do it.
and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
You've got choices.
Yep.
Right?
So, one last question. Which version did you guys get? I paid the extra money to have the Ethernet, and I'm glad I did, because I could not get a wireless password entered, because the touchpad that I didn't know what was going on and all kept hitting all the wrong buttons. Did you guys get the Ethernet one, or did you go with the wireless only?
I went with the same as you. I got the for $20 more, you get double the storage, right? And you get an Ethernet port, right?
Yep.
So I mean, to me, that's worth $20.
Absolutely. I agree. I got the same.
Okay.
I used Wi-Fi on it, right? Because where I was setting it up, I didn't have an Ethernet readily available. But I got that version, and I like it. It's worth it, in my opinion. I agree with Jimmy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I, as a network administrator, I will be the first to tell you, never use Wi-Fi unless you absolutely have to. Ethernet is reliable. Wi-Fi, it's basically voodoo. Um, and then, closing thoughts. And is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't covered, or can we get straight into just your
Um, a
general?
couple, a couple of things, you know, a
Okay.
couple of things that I failed to mention earlier, right? So, you know, coming from the first generation 4K Apple TV, this version is about 20% smaller,
Mm.
right, than the original first gen Apple 4K Apple TV. Um, and two, I'll get maybe more into this when we do the full review, right? But I will say the processing on this device is it's a noticeable difference, a big difference from the first gen Apple 4K, right? Um, I'll do more about that once we get into the full review of the device. But yeah, very happy with it so far.
All right. Yeah.
Excellent.
I mean, I it appears I will not be going any further. I can't comment on any apps on how they work because I can't download any apps, and the fact that I I can't get past the way that the home screen is set up, it doesn't make any sense for me to try to go any further. This device clearly isn't for me. But you know, for people that like the Apple stuff, may as well. I mean, if Jimmy, are you familiar with the second generation? Is there a noticeable jump from the second, or is this the one that they skip over and wait for the fourth?
I'm not familiar with that one, so
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I know the chip, right? So in the it was the A10 chip I had in the first generation Apple TV 4K. The second gen had the A12 chip in it. This one has the A15 in it, right? So I'm definitely noticing a big difference in the processing between the A10 and the A15. I don't know. I'm sure that, you know, I'm sure there's maybe a little bit of difference between the A12 and the A15, but how big of a difference is that? You know, would it be worth the upgrade if you're coming from the second gen Apple 4K TV? Hard to say. I didn't buy that one, right?
Okay.
That generation,
Yeah.
but definitely if you're older than the second gen Apple TV 4K, yes, I definitely think it's worth the upgrade.
All right. Well, rock
So,
on.
yeah, I would say from a recommendation perspective is like, I really think that if you like any Apple devices or have played around in the ecosystem, you're probably going to be pretty happy with this one. As far as the way that it worked, like speed of action, the way it responded to you, it just, there was something about it that felt more precise and more responsive than when I use like my Fire TV or my Roku. And it may just be the fact that there's not necessarily a hard button press. So you don't feel that click and then the response as the click happens. It's just instantaneously the slightest move of your hand, it responds to. But it felt more precise, faster, and there was something about the aesthetics that was always a step above, which is, to me, that's like what Apple is about. It's about subtleties that elevate the experience for the vast majority of people, Clyde not included.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
I guess that's our first look, initial thoughts. Look forward to the full in-depth review. I'm not sure what else we're gonna have to talk about, but at least we'll have a week or two of use, and we'll be able to speak from that standpoint. So,
yep.
thanks for checking this out, and we'll catch you all next time.